Well, welcome back to another edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse Halloween Extravaganza. And to answer a question some people have been kind enough to ask about my pets, the girls. I just took Boots to the vet to get her $106 shot, and I got my COVID shot at the same time. Not the vet, though. I get a shot at the supermarket. You know, it's like really weird getting an injection at the supermarket. But that's the way it is. They're okay. I mean, you know, she's got the cognitive decline. I noticed when they weighed her, I think her weight was a little bit off, maybe a pound or two, which concerns me because she was at one point 90 pounds. I got her down to like, I think 75, but she's been dropping, so that's concerning. Also, something, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but during my little episode where I was basically going off the rails, I was sort of sitting in here, and I think I was going to do something stupid. And Boots really could sleep through an atomic bomb blast on the front lawn. She don't get up for shit. So she sort of got up and came in here and got me, and I think the message was, please don't leave me, you have to take care of me. So, which kind of, I can't turn my back on an animal. I never have, I never will. But anyway, that's the story. We're doing the best we can. I found a home for the dragons, a better home than I could give them, and I feel bad about that because I overreached myself, which I don't like to do. But they're in a better place. Guy really knows what he's doing, where I do know what I was doing, but I just didn't have the wherewithal to keep it going. So that's the story. But today you get a twofer. You get the Cyclops from 1957 and the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman from 1958. I mean, how many giant people movies were there really out there? And both done by different directors. I mean, the Cyclops was done by Burt Gordon, of course. And it was about a woman who finances a little flight down to somewhere in Mexico because her fiancé had gone down there and disappeared 3 years earlier. And they got a pilot, and they got somebody else, and they got Lon Chaney, who's looking for uranium. And it looks like the place they're going is loaded with uranium. So there's something where the Mexicans don't want them on there, where they're going to send somebody with them to make sure they go home. So Lon punches the guy out, and they get in the plane and fly down to wherever they were going. For some reason, the air is choppy, and Lon gets agitated, and in his agitation, and this makes no fucking sense whatsoever, he punches out the pilot. So they wind up landing in this valley, and of course, you know, Gloria Talbert's the other star. I think Craig Stevens is in there. They're wandering around, and all of a sudden they see this rather large mouse superimposed, which gets a rather large superimposed hawk to kill it and eat it. So they're trying to get back to the camp, and they come across a really big spider. And then, of course, we got to have two lizards in the mix, because it wouldn't be Bert without killing two lizards, except I don't think he killed them this time. You got an iguana and you got a tegu, and it's obvious that somebody off camera threw the iguana on top of the tegu. So they're locked into Mortal Kombat, which they cut away from, thank God, because Bert's notorious for killing fucking animals. Anyway, they find this cave, which has scattered remnants of an airplane that sort of crashed, and are wondering how this stuff got into the cave or around the cave. Well, while they're in the cave, oh, I skipped something. I forgot something. Gloria goes wandering around, and you get a point of view from the Cyclops' eye. And she is taken back to this cave, and the other three find her there. And while they're in the cave, Clopsy pushes a boulder in front of it so they can't get out. And then he pops up behind the boulder. And remember Silly Putty when you were a kid? Well, it looks like Bert took a whole shitload of Silly Putty and smeared it on one side of his face. He's got some bad teeth showing and an obvious fake eye. So, and he also grunts and moans a lot, sort of. Actually, he sounds like a fucking wino taking a dump in Port Authority. That's what he sounds like. But anyway, they're doing a bunch of shit, and, you know, he's got him in there, and then, of course, Lon has to be the guy to fuck with him, and Lon gets killed. And they get out, and they're trying to get back to the plane with Clopsy in hot pursuit. So one guy's trying to get the plane going while the other guy's climbing as a diversion. and makes a makeshift spear and wraps some fucking straw around it and sets it on fire and throws it right into Clopsy's eye. And some blood comes out, but obviously Bert wasn't paying attention because the blood doesn't really look like blood on camera. It's sort of like some weird fucking lotion coming out. So that ends the whole Cyclopsy thing. And I think it was the same actor that played in War of the Colossal Beast. It's either Dean Parkin or Duncan Parkin, either one. I don't know what his real name is. I thought it was Dean, it may be Duncan, but that's the way that went down. So now we go to the real showstopper, The Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, starring Allison Hayes, Yvette Vickers, and William Hudson. William Hudson actually is the Harry. Remember the whole thing with Harry? She's looking for Harry. Well, Harry was one of the scientists in The Amazing Colossal Man. So the deal is that Harry is cheating with the local tramp, Yvette Vickers, and Allison is this heiress that, you know, is slightly off. And she sees this huge spaceship land and this huge giant come toward her. And she's wearing this big diamond, and the giant takes the diamond. Well, obviously, her coming in contact with the giant causes her to grow 50 feet tall, and she's in the house, the big fake hand tied up, and whatever. This was a Chiller Theater perennial, actually. So she gets wound up. She wants to go get Harry, and she breaks out of the house, and there's a lot of mayhem and falling timbers and things like that. And she walks into town and finds the bar that basically Harry is hanging out with Yvette at, and starts smashing the ceiling, which the debris basically kills Yvette. And she picks up Harry and walks off toward the high tension lines, and zap, that's the end of that. There was also a thing where the sheriff and his deputy found the spaceship and checked it out and went in and saw all these diamonds lined up. I guess they power the ship. But then the giant guy comes after them. And it's a real bad superimpose. You can see the hills through the guy. And he picks up their car. And if I remember right, the car he picks up and the car that crashes down are two different cars. But anyway, that's in the middle of the whole thing. So she gets fried, Harry gets fried, and it's the end of the movie. They've made a couple shitty ones after that, Attack of the 50-Foot Centerfolds, dumb shit like that. People said, if you were going to remake that, what would you do? Well, honestly, you really don't want to know what I would do, because I'm 42nd Street Pete, and obviously there's going to be some fucking really weird, twisted fucking shit involved in me remaking the 50-Foot Woman. But enough of that. Allison Hayes was a fixture in these movies. I think her first Corman film was The Gunslinger, and according to Beverly Garland, she fell off a horse and broke her arm because she wanted to get out of the picture. The other story was she walked up to Roger Corman and says, Roger, who do I got to fuck to get off this film? But that wasn't the only thing she did for Roger. She came back later in one of my favorite Corman films, The Undead as a Witch, Nydia. She was in The Hypnotic Eye, The Unearthly, The Crawling Hand, Elvis films, a couple comedies, a bunch of stuff. I mean, she was all over the place, and she fucking looked great. But what happened was she died of some kind of blood disease. It might have been blood poisoning or leukemia, but she was taking some kind of supplement that sort of fucked her up. Unfortunately, she passed away at like 46 years old. I think it was in 1977. And of course, Yvette Vickers, another weird passing, because I guess she was living in Florida. I don't know how old she was, but she was pretty much up there. I guess she had a heart attack or something while she was sitting in front of a space heater in the winter, and nobody thought to check on her. When they basically found her, she was mummified. Really terrible way for these two women to go, because they were icons of the 50s horror films and 50s cinema in general. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. If you can, and I'm not starting something myself, I already put something on Facebook, and I sold a bunch of magazines, and I sent the money down to Lisa Petruzzi, because Lisa's the head of something weird right now, and her nephew, his fiance, and her two kids were killed in the hurricane in the Carolinas. So it's really fucking bad, and if anybody can, help out any of these people, the pets, whatever, please do so. Don't bother going through me. I'm trying to do my own little thing on Facebook, and I ain't got that much to really throw that way. I'm trying to liquidate some stuff. So, again, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with more Monster Mayhem tomorrow, so catch you then on the flip side.